What you are about to experience is out of this world. Politics, history, and of course, a lot of entertainment. It's time to rock it with the Docket.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with our very 146th episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. And if you are excited to be here as well, make sure to go down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so then you never miss one of my videos. So, once again, we are having a situation at the southern border that is once again turning into something that could turn catastrophic for the Joe Biden administration. Now, thinking about this whole immigration situation, I thought back to the year 2023. There were two situations, the Ukraine invasion by Russia and the attack from the Palestinians on the Israelis. In each of these situations, the United States said, well, we have to support Israel, well, we have to support Ukraine. Both of these countries need to be able to protect their borders, right? Imagine, if you will, the Ukrainian government saying, oh wow, there are Russian military-age men coming into our country illegally? That's perfectly fine. You know what? Let's move all of our tanks and barriers out of the way so they can come right through. No, that would be stupid for them to do, because in both of these different situations, these countries have a right to defend themselves. They have a right to defend their border. And now I don't understand why the United States can't do the exact same thing. Why can't we defend our own border? Something has to change, or this will just keep on happening over and over and over again. As last week, the Supreme Court voted in a 5-4 decision that the United States Border Patrol agents could go down to the southern border and cut or remove razor wire that protects gaps in the border. So now we have a situation between the federal government and the government of Texas, as the DOJ and federal government are saying things like, the federal law unambiguously grants Border Patrol agents the authority without a warrant to access private land within 25 miles of the international border. Along with that, they are saying the injunction prohibits agents from passing through or moving physical obstacles erected by the state that prevent access to the very border they are charged with patrolling and the individuals they are trying to apprehend and inspect. What all that mumbo-jumbo is saying is that the barbed wire goes both ways. If there is someone drowning in the Rio Grande River, then the border guards can't get out and go and save that person because the razor wire is there. So they need to cut the razor wire and remove it to help people coming into this country. While Texas is claiming that they have a state's right to defend themselves, as putting up barbed wire and also the buoys in the Rio Grande River were a part of a mission Greg Abbott coined Operation Lone Star. This act cited Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the Texas Constitution to label what was happening at the southern border an invasion. Using that, Abbott claimed that Texas has a right to defend itself from invasion, and that authority is the supreme law of the land, and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. Texas is arguing that they have a right as a state to defend itself, and the federal government has no right to come down into Texas and tell them what to do with their border. After the Supreme Court ruled that the federal government could go down there and cut and remove razor wire, Greg Abbott went full scorched earth on Joe Biden, as he invoked the Constitution of the United States by claiming James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and the other visionaries who wrote the U.S. Constitution foresaw that states should not be left to the mercy of a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border. This is why the framers included articles which promises that the federal government shall protect each state against invasion, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which acknowledges that the state's sovereign interest in protecting their border, which is Arizona versus the United States. Now, all of this can be very confusing, and I know that some of you are probably thinking, why do we even need razor wire at the border? Well, let me show you. So let's say right here is our border. our big, beautiful border. So up here, we will have Mexico, and down here, we will have America. Now, the United States of America has different ways of protecting their border. We have different walls and fences. Here, I will make them red on here. Let's put a big, beautiful wall over here. And some people call this a big, beautiful wall. It's fantastic. Great walls. Beautiful wall. So, all right. There in the red is a wall. And now people, let's draw a little people here. Hold on. So these people right here that want to come into the country, they can't enter in through this way because, well, of course, there's a big wall blocking them from going into the country. So now there are different spots in the border that have empty spaces because there are certain politicians, aka Joe Biden, who don't want to protect our border and don't want to fund different border protection. So there are no fences, there are no gates, there are no nothing. People can just walk right in. So let's say there are these little people right here. And because they love Joe Biden so much, they can just walk right in, right here. So, to prevent this from happening, the Texas government has started to put up barbed wire, or razor wire. So they are putting razor wire right here. And this stops people from going in this way because they can't get through the barbed wire. Both the wall and the barbed wire are almost used as different funnels. The Texas government wants all of these people, for example, to enter into the country this way, right here. And this way right here is through a port of entry. Let me change this to black real quick. So let's do that. And then we'll call this a port of entry. So the Texas government wants these people to go through the port of entry so then we can know who these people are. And there isn't just one or two ports of entry. There's a grand total of 330 ports of entry at the southern border. So while it is tragic and terrible to hear stories about people drowning in the Rio Grande River or perishing in the desert, there are ways to avoid this. People don't have to die if they go through a port of entry. And then once they get to the port of entry, they are taken in by Border Patrol agents who will hear their case and either release them into the United States or send them back to Mexico. Texas and the Border Patrol agents are trying to save lives here. Let's say, for example, all of this razor wire was removed. And instead, it was replaced by the Rio Grande River. So let's color this blue. Let me go to my pen. All of this is now the Rio Grande River. There is no deterrence at all. What do you think that these people right here are going to do? Well, because there's no deterrence over here, there's no razor wire, they are going to try and go in through this way. They're going to try to go in through the Rio Grande River, which is extremely dangerous. The current could be going crazy and people could be swept away or drowned. And we don't want to see this happen. And this is why Texas is putting up these different deterrents, because they don't want people to cross over the Rio Grande River because it is extremely dangerous. We don't want people climbing over the walls. It's extremely dangerous. And we don't want people going through the desert because that is also extremely dangerous and has caused people to die. What we want is people to go through the port of entry. So now we have a situation where the federal government could go into Texas and bypass the state police and border patrol and do what they want. This could lead to several problems if the federal government comes down. Will the Texas Border Patrol agents listen to them, or will they listen to the Texas governor? If they demand that all the razor wire be removed, who do they listen to? We got one state claiming that they have a right to defend themselves, and the federal government saying that the razor wire isn't even effective, so it needs to come down. Could we see a situation where there's a standoff between federal and state troops, which could lead to a bloody situation and start a civil war? Both of these groups have guns, and I don't think that they are afraid to use them, especially in Texas, where there are even citizens that are coming out and supporting Texas in their fight against the federal government. Along with citizens helping, 25 state governors have signed a joint statement in support of Abbott and the state's right to defend itself. These states are even willing to send their own National Guard troops to help out Texas's National Guard troops. Texas is not standing down, and I will say that I am very proud of them for doing this because Greg Abbott knows that the razor wire works as a deterrent to stop these different immigrants. As Greg Abbott went to X and wrote, "Texas razor wire is an effective deterrent against the illegal border crossings encouraged by Biden's open border policies. We continue to deploy the razor wire." And at this point, Texas has not seen the federal government come down and cut down razor wire or remove it. A lot of this razor wire is being put around Shelby Park, which is in Eagle Pass, Texas, which has had immigration issues before. And because of this, people can't just walk right into this country, as there was a video from Shelby Park of 3 immigrants that couldn't get in because of this razor wire. So we can see that this razor wire is working. It is an effective deterrent to make sure that people that are trying to cross into the border are crossing over the right way, through a port of entry, like I already talked about. And once again, if they go through a port of entry, we are going to be able to properly vet these people. This way, we can stop people from bringing drugs like fentanyl into this country. We can stop people that are trafficking minors for sex. We can stop the human smuggling operation that is happening right now in this country. And we can allow people into this country that want to do the right thing. People that want to just work and make a better life for their kids and themselves. But there has to be a process, as just this year there have been a grand total of 2.5 million people coming into this country. And in December, it was estimated that a record 300,000 people have crossed over the border and have been processed. But who knows how many people have come over to this country and haven't been processed? Who knows how many people end up in Texas and then they are shipped off to another state, which is causing a lot of problems for states like New York and Illinois, as the mayor of Chicago was taken to the hospital because he was having panic attacks about the amount of immigrants that were coming into his city. I will also say I find it extremely funny and ironic how during the 2016 election, Bernie Sanders was saying things like, housing is a human right, and Medicare is a human right, blah, 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 blah. Apparently, these things are human rights, but not for you, the American citizens, but for illegal immigrants. As there have been situations where children have to go to online learning because the government needs their school to house immigrants. Hotels have kicked out veterans and have placed illegal immigrants in there instead. And at the very first Democratic debate in 2020, it was asked if illegal immigrants would receive free health care, and every single one of those candidates rose their hand. Take a look at this.
This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. Okay, let me start with you, Mayor Buttigieg. Why?
I mean, look at this. Right now, there is a guy in New York that is paying $1,100 for an apartment that is only 95 square feet. That is the same size as a parking spot. And guess what? These other people are just walking across the border and they are getting free health care and huge luxurious hotel rooms. It just goes to show you how terrible the situation is getting, and it is crazy to me that people on the left in New York or Chicago see this and think, well, We are a sanctuary city. I guess the more the merrier. The left will claim to be a sanctuary city until a Greyhound bus pulls in with a bunch of immigrants that the city doesn't know what to do with. It seems like the left is blind to this crisis, as they are siding with the federal government on this issue, not Texas. As failed Texas Senator, President, and dog catcher Beto O'Rourke reacted to Abbott defying the Supreme Court by writing on X, Abbott is using the Texas Guard to defy a Supreme Court ruling. When Governor Fabius did this in 1957, Eisenhower federalized the Arkansas Guard to ensure compliance with the law. Biden must follow this example of bold, decisive leadership to end this crisis before it gets worse. That's right, Beto O'Rourke is comparing this situation to Brown v. Board of Education, where Arkansas used their National Guard to block black students from going to school. Now, these are two very different situations. One is talking about American school children trying to go to school, and the other is talking about our national border where people are just pouring in. So while Joe Biden technically does have a right to nationalize the Texas Guard, I think it would be a mistake, and Texas would still keep doing what they are doing. And now we have to talk about the person that started this problem to begin with, and that is Joe Biden. That's right, Joe Biden has failed in his duty to protect the United States of America. Instead of letting Texas do their own thing, Joe Biden was the one that asked the Supreme Court to cut down this razor wire. It is Joe Biden's relaxed immigration policies that have led to this terrible humanitarian crisis that has already turned deadly. People are hurting, and Joe Biden won't let the state do their job. Now, I can't say I'm shocked by this, because Joe Biden ran on this in 2020, as during a Democratic debate he said this.
That we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
And then, in a debate with Donald Trump, Joe Biden claimed that he wanted to give 11 million immigrants a pathway to citizenship. Just take a look at this.
We made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy, and they want to do that, is they're going to a country they've never seen before.
Then, when Joe Biden won the 2020 election, he came into office and removed all of Trump's border policies, and then when the border started getting worse, he and other Democrats started blaming Donald Trump for what Joe Biden was doing. Kareem Jean-Pierre, along with Kamala Harris, have claimed over and over again that when they came into office, the border was broken. No, you broke it! And then Joe Biden pushed it off to Kamala Harris, who didn't know what she was doing, and this administration is just ridiculous and have taken away all the resources that Texas and other border states need to protect themselves. I mean, the Biden administration ended Title 42, which stops immigration because of COVID. Biden's 2023 budget cut border security. He is trying to end the Remain in Mexico policy. He's giving USCIS officials the authority to grant asylum to migrants who cross the border without an immigration court/judge reviewing their claim. He's undermining immigration enforcement, ICE, in America with a flurry of bad policies, including rolling back the scopes of DHS's exponential removal authority. He has limited ICE's immigration enforcement activities. ICE has arrested 48 fewer convicted criminals. ICE has deported 63 fewer criminals. And according to this chart right here, May of 2022 had the most encounters. And looking at the whole graph, you can see that once Biden got into office, the encounters just kept going up and up. And people crossing the border also keeps going up. It is simple. The Democrats want this to happen. They want as many people in this country as they can because they will vote for Joe Biden. This is why there is a famous photo of Mexican immigrants wearing shirts that say, "Joe Biden, let us in." Because once they knew that Joe Biden came into office, he would relax on the border. This shouldn't have to be the way it is. Texas and the federal government should be working together to fix the border. But instead, we have a situation that could lead to another civil war. And it is Joe Biden's fault. He has failed at every turn. And if he gets 4 more years in the White House, I think all of the border states like Texas, Arizona, and California will be renamed to New Mexico 2, New Mexico 3, and New Mexico 4. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Dockery Docket. And until next time, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving, goodbye.